want to make sure each of you fully understand a lot of the information about what goes into not just applying into college right now as a high school senior, but really what to look out for, whether you're applying to University of Maryland College Park, Prince George's Community College, or any of the other fantastic institutions around our country. So with this, want you to know that these conversations will not end today. Continue to talk to myself, many of the people who are leading these initiatives, to make sure you are fully confident and comfortable going through the entire application process. So with that, jumping directly into it, what I want to start with is that for the entire college application process, you need to know that you, again, looking into an institution to see what they really have to offer and how you can be a competitive applicant as you're joining them. Hopefully, they have many initiatives and opportunities that you're looking to get engaged in. So please try to make sure that you're doing everything you can to put yourself forward in the best possible light, to explain any challenges that you maybe had to overcome or are working through, and to make sure that they understand that you are a fantastic individual that will thrive, succeed, and enrich the campus community that they have there. So it's not just about the university helping you become a successful professional, but also making sure that they understand that you can grow and thrive and benefit other students in the classrooms, in the residence halls, and as you continue to go forward. So jumping in, when you're looking at institutions to apply into college, you can typically apply through one of two main platforms, either a multi-institution application. Similar to that, you would apply into multiple schools simultaneously during that time frame, and other opportunities are typically with individual institution applications. For multi-institution applications similar to the Common App, this is where you can apply into 1, 10, 20, sometimes over 100 institutions at that same time to make sure that you're saving time, being very efficient, and completing those applications in a timely manner to each of those individual schools. Some institutions might have additional requirements if they have their own individual application, and they will be very upfront if they have a preference for you to choose their own application versus one where they're listed on multiple institutions. With that, you want to make sure you're asking, hey, college, hey, university, do you have your own individual application? And if so, are there additional essays required for that? Are there additional questions or answers that you need to provide for them, or additional information as well? So with that, normally in most cases, a lot of the same information that they'll ask for will be the same on both. But if there is any concern for that, always try to ask to clarify to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward and being fully considered for any scholarship or any other opportunity that you want to fully be considered for when applying in. Directly with that, I normally typically recommend the Common App, as it's normally the easiest platform that most students choose from to apply into different institutions. But there is a full amount of flexibility, and every institution will be very upfront with what their preference is. Along with that, you can apply, like I mentioned before, to many different institutions through that. And there are built-in application resources to make sure students have the opportunity to know what scholarships they can apply into, what resources can they tap into with partnering organizations to make sure they're cutting the costs down through either fee waivers, financial aid opportunities, or other ways to find success. So with that, know that you have different flexibility options built into each of the platforms to make sure you can find the success and the ease of accessibility to make sure you're going forward with completing those applications. We typically require more documents than many other institutions. So know that most schools might require some combination of these when you're applying indirectly to them. So it's not just the application form itself and the fee waiver, so the fee. So sometimes you do have to pay to apply into a school. Many times it'll be sometimes $10, $20, sometimes $30. University of Maryland is sometimes on the more expensive side of about $75. So know that there are fee waivers built into the application platform. So that fee can be waived. And if you reach out to that institution as well, we can also potentially waive that fee if there's any the need for sometimes financial need, or if you're a student of veteran or military service members, that can potentially be waived. Along with that, we do look closely at recommendation letters. So we want to hear from a teacher, a counselor, a school administrator, a mentor, someone that has built a relationship with you over your years in high school to understand as best as possible how you're a great student. Not just that you show up to class, you turn in your homework, but where have you made an impact? What difference have you made either in your family, your religious organization, your community, through any service learning opportunities, community service, or different things like that? We want you to share that context that you think we need to know through your teacher, through your counselor, so they can provide all that information to us, so we as an institution can make the most informed and hopefully the most positive decision possible. So with that, many schools might require recommendation letters sometimes for admissions or sometimes for scholarships, but sometimes you can always request those either directly through the Naviance system, through the Parchment, or directly through the Common App itself. So know that there is flexibility with how you have those recommendation letters submitted, but they should always come directly from the recommenders. So whether it's the teacher or the counselor, make sure they send it directly to the institution, including your name and like date of birth, and typically that will be fine. For the official transcripts, this is something that's very important. I know a lot of students have concern on is the academics, so where you typically stand. So in most cases, it's not just enough to have a certain GPA number, but really what do those grades look like? Have you had a good trend in your grades from freshman to sophomore to junior year? Has it been an upward trend increasing from B's and C's to more A's and B's to mostly A's, or have you had a downward trend? If you've had any different times in your years in high school that you have a concern for, that you have lower grades, try to always provide context around that, because it's not just enough for us to know as an institution, yes, your school maybe have a strong STEM or arts or other focus. Let us know what classes are more difficult. Let us know where you struggled, maybe had to change your study habits, and then found success forward from there. Because a GPA doesn't define you as a student. The context around you, your story is something you should really highlight. So again, we can understand how you're continuing to find success and hopefully reward you for that. Many institutions are also test optional, meaning that you may or may not have to submit SAT or ACT test scores. So with that, if your school, if the institution, the college you're applying into does require test scores, make sure that score you're including is competitive. If you can potentially take an updated SAT or ACT in October or November, see if that can be helpful and you can still meet that deadline. If the school does not require a test score, check to see if your score is helpful and beneficial for your application and decide whether or not you want to include it. Because many scores can be helpful for admissions, but sometimes scholarships can be more competitive depending on the test score. And along with that, make sure if you're looking at activities or awards, include all the accomplishments you had, all the successes to really share that information. And then lastly, in the essay, you want to talk about yourself. Regardless of which prompt you choose, you don't have to talk about the institution or a negative story that you have, but really share information about yourself as a student so that institution can learn something new about you. We hear a lot of different things from other voices, but it's really important to make sure that we understand who you are as a student, where you found your success, and how you can hopefully share a little bit more insight to what your mindset looks like, how you want to grow, how you want to progress, and find your own success. Um, with some of those important dates, I do also want to mention some of the deadlines. So when you're applying into different institutions, some of you might know for many institutions throughout the state of Maryland, Washington, D.C., and Virginia, some of those deadlines are coming up soon. Some may be October 1st, some October 15th. University of Maryland College Park has a November 1st deadline. So when you're applying into those institutions, you want to make sure you're hopefully meeting those deadlines. You're using your phone, you're using a calendar, planning out what those deadlines look like so you can have all of the required documents fully completed. Because again, it's not just the application, but the entire profile needs to be completed of all those documents so we can fully receive that and move forward by that deadline. So please do not wait until the day before the deadline. Do not wait until Halloween to apply to University of Maryland or any other institution. Make sure that you're applying early on so that if there are any issues, any errors that need to be corrected, we can move forward quickly and provide a resolution to that so you're still fully considered. Once you apply in, you'll typically hear back for your application decision. Normally, in most cases, 6 to 8 weeks, but for University of Maryland, we typically send it out by February 1st because every institution wants to make sure that the decisions are consistent among you and other students. They want to make sure that those decisions are equitable based on your individual story. And on top of that, we want to make sure that those decisions are fair. So we take a little bit longer to make sure that every student has like that full consideration as read, not just one time, but sometimes 6, 7, or 10 times to make sure that we fully understand and have given a fair shake for every application that comes into us. Once you start receiving those decisions back, hopefully each of you will get those positive decision letters and receive scholarships. Know that you will normally have until May 1st to confirm your enrollment for any institution you're applying into. If you're looking at a number of different schools, make sure you're talking to the current students, talking to alumni, talking to the admission counselors, and really also those financial aid offices to make sure you're making a fully informed decision, not just between you, but your parents, your family, and you have that best understanding of where is a great fit academically, socially, and also financially. So with that, take all those different things into consideration for every school you're looking at and hopefully receiving those positive decisions. Along with that, I do also want to mention what institutions typically cover and review for. So you don't have to take a full picture of this. We normally have it directly on our website, but every school tries to make sure they consider more than just those academic factors, like I mentioned. What are different things that are part of your story? And just know I will also share this presentation out so that this can be forwarded, but know that we want to really understand who you are as a student, what your journey has looked like, what are the skill sets you bring, what are the different involvements you've had, what meaningful experiences can you share with yourself? So for University of Maryland, this is a sliding scale of what we consider for students. So know that you don't have to meet every single one of these 24 factors. It's not a checkbox. It's what has your story shared through each of these points, and how can we understand how that has impacted your journey, impacted your progression, and your hopeful success, and your resilience. So with that, not every student is including that SAT or ACT score. Many students have English as a second or third language. So know that some of those factors, the quality of coursework, whether schools rank, are sometimes optional in a lot of cases. But what we want you to know is that you are an amazing student, you are a confident and a successful student. And what you have to do with the application is share those successes, share those achievements, and really make sure that those institutions know how fantastic you are and what makes you great. It's okay to brag about yourself. It's okay to not be humble in this one chapter of life, because institutions really want to see what you've done, because it doesn't matter if you've done 3 varsity sports, you're a student body president, or you've only done a few activities like taking care of family members. Whatever it is that you've done to make a difference, really share that, because we recognize those special achievements, we recognize those time commitments, and we will go forward from there with hopefully rewarding you for that hard work and success. When you're looking at those deadlines, like I mentioned before, there are 4 main types of deadlines that you need to consider when applying into schools. Early decision is going to be the main type of deadline that some institutions have versus early action. So with those, both of those application decisions between early decision and early action give you additional benefits with better consideration for admissions, maybe consideration for scholarships, or maybe being allowed to be considered for a special program like an honors college or a special program that's tailored to who you are and how you want to learn. The main difference between early decision and early action is that early decision is where you're deciding early that you want to go to that school. You are committing to that institution and you're saying, yes, they have the school colors I want, they have the programs I want, and I'm choosing that school. Early action is where you're taking a step to say, yes, I would like to go to this school, but I'm not fully committed yet. I still want to look around at other institutions. In all cases, I recommend if you're looking at 5, 10, or more schools, only apply to one school by the early decision deadline and apply to every other school by early action. Not that you have to apply early decision, but you only want to apply to at most one school by the early decision if you're choosing to commit. That way, if you know you want to go to that school and you will ignore all the others if you're admitted, then you're already committing that school, and that might be an additional benefit. But that is a contract, meaning that if you do back out of that, there sometimes may be a negative penalty. So do look at both types of decisions, as schools will be very upfront about what type of decisions they have based on what deadline. For University of Maryland College Park, we are an early action school. We are not early decision. So if you decide to attend any other institution, that's fine. It's not going to hurt us. We just want you to be in the best place based on where you want to learn and grow. For the regular decision deadline, this is typically a final deadline in most cases. In a lot of institutions, there's no additional benefits for scholarship consideration or special programs. So if you learn about a school very late on after you've already been admitted to others, make sure you're looking to see, is this a cool school that you want to go to? Does they have the great programs you want? And still take your chance to apply in to see if you can be admitted. Lastly, we do also have those rolling deadlines. This is a non-fixed deadline, so there's no specific date to apply in that sometimes smaller institutions or some community colleges have. So that if you decide very late on, it's like, oh, I saw this amazing program at this school that you definitely want to do, you can apply into it and only hear back about your decision sometimes between 2 to 6 weeks, depending on the school itself. But with that, there are some fixed policies, but normally they require the same application documents for all of these deadlines, regardless of which institution you're applying into. So do double check to see what they require at those times, plan out when those deadlines are, and make sure you're writing them down, talking with family to make sure you are fully applying at the time frame that you want to be considered by. Along with that, as you're completing the application, do make sure that you're checking on the status of it. So if you're applying into University of Maryland, for example, and you're looking to see, hey, I want to meet that November 1st early action deadline. I've sent in my application. I've asked my teacher and counselor to send in the document, the recommendation letters, and the transcripts. Check in with us, call us, email us, stop by the office if it's convenient for you to see, is your application fully complete and can you move forward? In some cases, universities and colleges will call or send an email to say, hey, your application is incomplete. We're missing one or two documents. Can you please send that in for us? And they might be able to do that. Not every school has the flexibility or the time or the bandwidth to really do so. So make sure that you as a student are taking the initiative. You're reaching out to each school to make sure that you're fully complete and fully considered. Because if you miss that early action deadline, for example, for University of Maryland, we'll wait and keep your application on hold until we receive those documents, and you will then be considered for the regular deadline if the early action deadline has already passed. So please make sure you are checking in on it. I know a lot of teenagers don't like to answer phone calls from random strangers or universities, but at least have a voicemail box set up, or make sure you're checking that inbox on a regular time frame to make sure that you can see exactly what message you're trying to get across, to make sure you can send in those missing documents. Once you know you're fully complete, you can then go forward from there with relaxing for that time frame to pass until the decisions are sent out later on in the winter or sometimes early spring timeframe, depending on the deadline you choose to apply for. But with that, we do want to make sure students have the opportunity to fully be considered. So know that when you're applying for those early timeframes, you want to make sure you're considered for any merit-based scholarships or any financial aid opportunities. So with that, don't just look out for the need-based opportunities from either the FAFSA or the MISRA or the other opportunities you'll hear about today, but make sure you are considered for those merit-based scholarships. Because if you worked hard in high school, if you found a lot of success inside and outside the classroom, you can cut that cost down very significantly. Prince George's Community College, University of Maryland College Park, and every other institution that I have ever heard of offers money to students so that you as a student can be rewarded for that hard work and remove hopefully some, if not all, of that financial barrier. So please make sure that you're not just applying into scholarships going into college, you're continuing to apply into those either from your academic major, through the college at whole, or the university to make sure that you can cut that cost down. So from my personal standpoint, I didn't receive a lot of money from University of Maryland when I attended there a little over a decade ago. But what I did do is I talked to the financial aid office. I saw what other opportunities can I look into. And I received $500 for being left-handed. I received another $1,000 for having previously attended a high school within Baltimore City. It's up to you as a student to take that initiative. We will happily send you all the information that you need to be successful and to have an affordable journey. But what you need to do is make sure you're taking that step to apply in and to continue applying in as you go through your time in college. So yes, applying in and hopefully receiving money is going to be fantastic. But until that dollar amount is as close to zero as it can get, you want to keep looking for other scholarship opportunities, keep looking for other ways to either find job like a resident assistant position that could cover housing or meal plans, find other ways within your academic department to either use that strong GPA, use that strong experience to make sure you have an affordable way to go through college. Because again, not everyone wants to take loans. That is an option. But you as a student, if you're working hard, if you're finding success, can do it. Many students do it every year, and you can be that next one. Along with that, I will briefly mention the FAFSA, as I know it will be touched on a little bit shortly, but know that if you can, try to complete the free application for federal student aid as early as possible so that you can receive aid from any of the different institutions and also potentially state or federal government. You want to make sure you are looking for those opportunities because you never know what money might be out there to make sure you have an affordable pathway going forward. So with that, that is the majority of the information that I wanted to cover. But again, know that there are different types of deadlines that you can potentially receive. So sometimes you can be admitted to a fall or spring semester. So they still want you to come in if the fall semester is fully filled. So if you do join in the spring, that means you can do other opportunities like either doing a study abroad, looking for different jobs or internships, and then potentially joining in. But know that if you are waitlisted, so fully reading that admission decision letter, see what steps have to be taken. So that sometimes might mean finishing strong in a senior year to kind of go forward, or potentially making sure you're completing like certain programs to potentially join up in the fall if spaces do open up. It is up to you to make sure you're fully reading all the decision letters that you're receiving and then really going forward from there. Lastly, if you do receive a denial letter, know that is a no for now, not a no forever. So many institutions do fill up on space. Some institutions are very competitive, but they do have very easy transfer pathways if you want to join them later on. So for example, University of Maryland has a partnership with Prince George's Community College and many other institutions. So if you are a strong student there, you have a very strong chance of joining us later on as a TERP. But no, that's mostly the same for many other institutions throughout the state of Maryland, because we want you to know your journey doesn't just start at our institution over 1 year. If you want to go into that next step, whether it's going from a community college to a 4-year institution, or going from 4 year to grad school, professional school. That's a full pipeline. We will always partner with each other so that you can be successful and have an easy understanding of where you need to go and what you need to do. But with that, that is the majority of information I want to say. But lastly, make sure you're giving yourself time to fully plan out each of these opportunities. Start early on. The applications are typically open, and give ample time to your recommenders to send those recommendation letters in. If you can give it, ask them early, sometimes when Monday comes up or sometime next week. Give them at least 3 to 4 weeks to meet those deadlines. Because if you like them as a teacher, as a counselor, as a school administrator, you are most likely not the only student asking for those recommendation letters. So please ask early and give them ample time for it. But with that, that is the majority of the information I wanted to cover. Again, my name is Albert Clark. If you have any questions for myself or any of the other staff within our admissions office, please let us know. Please always continue those conversations to make sure that we can fully support you.